In this demonstration, we're going to look at the Docker volume driver for vSphere, and we're going to look at it in the context of creating volumes that have a particular policy when those volumes are deployed on vSAN or virtual SAN. So there's a few things you need to do here. The first is on your ESXi host, you do need to create the policy. And secondly, in the virtual machine on which you are going to create a container or create the volume for that container, you must select the appropriate policy. So let's start off by going on to our ESXi host. And if we have a look at the current policies, you'll see that we do not have any policy. So let me go back and find an example of the policy. And here we have one. So I'm going to create a policy. Its name is FTT equals 0, short for failures to tolerate setting of 0. And then the policy contents are going to have the setting host failures to tolerate set to 0. So I can go ahead and create that policy. And now if I do an ls once more, you can see the policy is unused. It is created but unused. So my next step now is to go onto a virtual machine that will create a container that uses that volume with that particular policy. So let's do that next. So now I'm on the virtual machine. This is a Photon OS virtual machine, and this is where I'm going to create my container volumes and also my containers. So if I do a docker volume ls, now there are some volumes created here already, but we're going to create a brand new volume, and as I said, we're going to create it with the policy that we created earlier on the ESXi host. So here's my docker volume create command. The driver is vmdk, that's the driver type for the docker volume driver for vSphere. I'm going to call this volume corvol with 20 gig in size, and now you can see I have an option that specifies the vSAN policy name to be FTT equals 0, which is what we created on the ESXi host previously. And remember, this virtual machine is running on that ESXi host. And there we go. So my volume is now created. So what I can do is I can inspect corvol. And you can see it there. So now my next step is to actually deploy a container that uses this volume. And this is the docker command that I'm going to use to start a container. This is going to run Ubuntu. I'm going to run it in interactive mode, and then the volume that I'm specified is called corvol, and within that container in the Ubuntu OS I should see it mounted on /corvol. So let's run that. And because I already had an Ubuntu image available locally, this came back very quickly. So now I can have a look at the file system mounts, and I can see corvol mounted there. I can see the size, about 20 gig. So that all looks good. So now if I check back onto my ESXi host, let's have a look here. And now I can see that this policy is actually in use by one volume. And now the very last thing we want to do is we want to have a look on our virtual machine. Let's go and monitor policies, hard disk tree. You can see that it doesn't have any policy, but let's come down and have a look at the disk placement, and you can see it just has a single component which equates to our policy of FTT equal to 0. And that completes the demonstration.